In this challenge, I want you to create a function. This function will become an integral part of your personal code chest. This function will accept 4 arguments: type, which will either be y, m, or d, name, current, and container, which is either a y or an n. This function is a date selection function. It's one I've used over and over and over in my programming. When you're creating systems, you often need the user to select a date range. Creating selection boxes of months, days, and years over and over and over is quite tiring, so it's easily solved using a function that you're going to build here. This is what the end result would look like for a year. That's created from this function that you're going to build now. Your function should contain an array of years, months, and days. And based on the type argument, you'll use the appropriate array to build either a list of months, days, or years in a drop-down selection box. The name argument will set the name of the select box. The current argument contains the value of the variable if it exists in the script, i.e., if a form was posted and an error occurred, we want the customer selection to contain what they previously selected in that drop-down. That would be this value you're passing in. You also need to figure out how to insert it into the selection box. The container argument defines whether the select name equals and closing select should be returned from this function or not. There are cases where you may prefer to set your own selection opens and closes, for example if you want to use CSS. This function is a fairly small function in number of lines, but a complex one to get a handle on. Give it a go and see how you make out. Here's a couple of hints for you. Variables are very useful to know here. And looping is also the key to this function, in case you haven't figured that out yet. If you have trouble creating the function, come back to the movie at this point, and you'll see the function I've created and have used for many, many years. If you find this one easy, then for bonus marks, instead of setting your year array statically, set it dynamically. This will make the script more useful because you'll no longer have to add and remove years from the years array at the year's end. Okay, if you're back here, either you want to compare your solution to mine or you're having some troubles. So here's a function that I've been using. What we've got here is a function called selectDate. Takes a type argument, the default of a year, the name argument, the current, and the container, which has a default of 0. I use 0 and 1 instead of y and n. You know that that is the exact same as we learned previously. So here I have my 3 arrays. I have my year array, 2005 through 2012. I have my month array, 01 through 12. So there's 12 months in a year. And I have my day array, 1 through 31. So the first thing I do is I check the container value. If it's true, or 1, then I print out the starting selection box with the name argument passed into the function as the name value. If the container was 0, then this would not be executed. Now here's the key to the whole function. In my for each, I'm using the variable of type. Remember, type is passing as either a y, an m, or a d. So what I'm doing with this variable here is I'm saying for each variable y, m, or d. Because remember, type gets replaced with either a y or an m or a d. So that is my array there. So I'm passing here the array name as x, which is the value of the array. I'm going to print out the option value of x. So whatever value comes through here. Now this is where the current comes into play. What I want to do is if the current value I'm in this loop is equal to what the customer already had selected, then I want to make that the selected option. So what I got to do is I've got to drop into an if here. So if x, or the value that I'm at in this loop, is equal to the value passed through in the current argument, then I print the selected. Close my if, close my option, and print out the value. And again down here a container check to see if I'm going to enter the closing select or not. So that's your basic selection date function. If I were to print that out, get my select date here, selection box, remember I selected here the year with the name Mike. So I've got 2005 through 2012, which is 2005 through 2012, that's right. And if I check my source, I see that the select box name is Mike. Perfect. And remember I passed through the current value as 2005. 2005 is selected. If I change that, let's say 2007, refresh, my current selection is 2007. And finally my container is set to 1. Yes, I want the container to be displayed, and container is displayed. Now for bonus marks, I asked you to set your year array dynamically, because here in this method every year I'd have to go in and remove 2005, maybe add a couple of years here. So what I want to do is replace that with a dynamic method of calculating that. And I'm going to do it for 10 years with this little line of code here. Neaten it up. So simply all I'm doing is I'm setting my year array through a for loop. So year 0 is going to equal the year plus the value of I. So what I'm doing here, the first year, say I'm setting this in 2005. So the first time through the loop, the year is going to be 2005 plus I, which starts off as 0. So plus 0 is 2005. I'm setting that into my 0 index. The next loop through, I is going to be equal to 1. So y1 is going to equal 2005 plus 1, or 2006, and so on and so forth. So let's save this, go back to our screen, refresh it, and look, we have 2005 through 2014, which is a 10-year span. I specified I to run 10 times. So that's a more intelligent way to enter your month. So if you're able to create this function without a problem, then you're well on your way to becoming a PHP expert programmer. If you had difficulties, you may want to review a few of these chapters before continuing on to learning about MySQL.